In the previous lesson, we talked about multiplying fractions by fractions, and to do that we used some pictures and shaded in some rectangles. Today we're going to do something similar, but we're going to be using area models to multiply fractions. And for our example here, just starting off, I want you to think about what fraction of the square is shaded. Go ahead and pause if you need some time to think, but what fraction of the square is shaded? And looking at this, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts are shaded out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 6/12 of that square is shaded. And so we figured out what that was without doing any sort of multiplication. But today we're going to be using that area model to help us with our multiplication. And why would we choose to use an area model? Well, one reason is because it's another way to help us visualize fraction multiplication. And another reason is because area relates to multiplication because of the formula. If you remember, the formula for area is area equals length times width. Area equals length times width. Before we jump into the problem, let's talk about the dimensions we have here. So the dimensions of our square here are from, this is 1. So if this corner is 0, then this would be 1, and this is also 1. So the area of our whole square is 1 square unit. 1 square unit. But if we're going to talk about the dimensions of the shaded portion, let's start here on the bottom. And to figure that out, we need to know how many sections there are from 0 to 1. Well, in this case, there's starting from here, we've got 1, 2, 3 sections, 3 equal sections. So that means it's divided into thirds. So we could label each of the sections as 1/3, 2/3, and since this is already labeled as 1, we could also call that 3/3. Same thing if we went from the bottom to the top, or the width. Starting here would be 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, 4 equal sections. So that would be 1/4, and then this would be 2/4. We have 3/4, and we have 1, which could also be considered, could also call that 4/4. Now we can use this to help us think about the multiplication problem of the fraction. So as you can see, we wanted to find 2/3 of 3/4. This portion came out to 2/3. And this portion went up to 3/4. And we can see with the shaded portion that it's 6/12. So 2/3 of 3/4 equals 6/12. For our next example, we're going to look at 3/5 of 2/3. And again, we're going to start by figuring out the dimensions. So if 0 is our starting point here, this is 1, the whole thing is 1 square unit. So we have 1 for both sides. From our starting point here to figuring out our length, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 equal sections. So this will be 1/5. Then we have 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, which brings us to 1 or 5/5. Do the same thing for the width from the bottom to the top. We've got 1, 2, 3 equal sections. So for thirds it would be 1/3, 2/3, and then the 1 or 3/3. We've been talking a lot about how fractions of a whole number of fractions is the same thing as multiplying. So We didn't do this on the first example, but here we could think of this again as 3/5 times 2/3. And using our fraction model down here, the shaded portion came out to 3/5. And the shaded portion here came up to 2/3. And of the shaded portion, we have six parts shaded in. And then for a total, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it would be 6/15. So 3/5 times 2/3 equals 6/15. For the most part, you can leave your answer like this. This is a fraction that we could put in simplest form. And we could do that. Both numbers are divisible by 3. So we could do 6 divided by 3 is 2. 5 divided by 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 6/15 is equal to 6/15 is equal to 2/5. But for the most part, for our class, you can just leave it as 6/15. For the last sample problem here, I'd like for you to try to think through this problem for yourself. So figure out what's being multiplied together here and figure out the labels. I know you can't really write on your screen, but you can think about it. So go ahead and pause it now. Think through the problem, see if you can figure out the answer. And then when it's unpaused, I'll start up and give you the answer. So go ahead and hit pause right now. All right, so if we're going to go ahead and label this, again, we're starting with 0. And we started with 0. I want to use my yellow color here. Started with 0. We know that this is representing one whole, it's one square unit. On the bottom, counting, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sections. So we label it by fourths, 1/4. 2/4, 3/4, and then 1 or 4/4. Then this side, the width, 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Oh, that's a bad 3. 3/4 and 1 or 4/4. Now, I asked you to think about what the multiplication problem was. And this kind of might remind you of a coordinate grid like we said earlier, but it's just an area model. But with the coordinate grids, we always start from left to right first. So we're going to do that for this problem here as well. So it came out to 3/4. So our fraction is going to be, first fraction is going to be 3/4 times 3/4 times, well, this goes up to 2/4. So 3/4 times 2/4 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 sections shaded in out of a total of 16 sections. So we have 6/16. If your teacher wants you to take these types of problems to simplest form, we could do that. Could do that here as well. Both numbers are divisible by 2, so we could do 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. And so the answer in simplest form would be 3/8. If you have any questions about using area models, make sure you let your teacher know. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.